Ensara TV ekerenga kyomogusi.
Yes, before the governor commences responding,
yes,
you would help us by telling us where you have been. Not today,
yeah,
but we have severally waited for you to respond to this important issue. So where have you been?
Chair, I think correspondence was shared with the Senate. There was a presidential state visit to the US, where Nairobi was also invited directly. Chair, following that state visit, we were able to secure a lot of support for the city of Nairobi, including the Millennium Challenge Corporation of $60 million threshold program, partnering with Atlanta City as well. And that $60 million program opens up to a 700 to 800 million compact program, for urban planning, lands, mobility. And so I had sent a communication to the Senate on that, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much, Governor. We are all here, yourself, the Senate, for purpose of for public good.
Yeah.
And we've had formal communications of requests for rescheduling and that. Yesterday when we spoke, that's why when I told you that this now we have to dispense off with it because it's an issue that has been pending for a while.
Yeah.
Now, in future, it will really help us, and you've been here as a senator, a very vibrant senator for that matter. If you can accommodate, because we don't keep you that long in terms of engagement. We will prosecute what is before us, immediately release you back to work. And we've had a lot of collaboration from most of the governors, but we've had some issues, unfortunately, with a few governors in terms of responding in time and the request for rescheduling quite a number of times. You just need to take note of that, and because we have also another engagement and the meeting has started long, I want to request that we proceed into the issues that are before us in order to manage our time. And I want to request the members, please, because time is not on our side, let's just allow the governor now to proceed with what he needs to respond to, starting with the first item on statement regarding status of the 16 billion pending bills by the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, which was sought by Senator Dr. Boni Khalwale. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. As I was saying, available to come to the Senate, but sometimes scheduling has conflicts, like that state visit to another country. It's not that I was around and didn't want to come. Chairman, the NMS was a national government entity created after the transfer of functions as per Article 187 of the Constitution in 2020. And they received money from Nairobi County. They were also funded by the National Assembly. And there were also certain, what they called presidential projects that they undertook. Chairman, after the dissolution of the NMS, all pending bills and all outstanding liabilities were to remain at that level of government, at the national level. Therefore, the person to respond to that, Chairman, would be the accounting officer in the office of the President. I know they have been paying a few of those bills. They have been sorting out quite a number. But those bills are not sorted out by Nairobi County government. They're sorted out by the Executive Office of the President under the head of Public Service. What we have listed here is what they presented to us in August of 2023 as their schedule or compendium of ongoing projects and pending bills that they're still sorting out. We're waiting for their final report because they give it to us as they sort it out. That information that would be accurate would then be offered by that office, Chairman.
Okay. Is that your exhaustive response to that statement, right?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Senator.
We had him, but I would require an opportunity to go through that response And if it becomes necessary, then we would inform him to make time so as to respond to any supplementary issue that I would raise. I cannot be able to rule out supplementary questions just by dint of what he has just said. I need time.
And I think the most weighty issue that has come out, Senator Kalwale, is the fact that the governor says the responsibility lies with another office. And he has not provided any response for that matter other than what has been forwarded to him by the Office of the President based on the information he has shared. So our decision at this point is we are unlikely to get further detailed information from the governor. What we needed on record is that Nairobi City County is not holding that responsibility of the pending bills on behalf of Nairobi Metropolitan Services, and that responsibility lies somewhere else. That's why I've just given it to you, so that then maybe we might proceed to invite whoever is responsible, because the position of the governor assertively is that the only thing he can share with us is what was shared with him
by them.
On record by them. Okay?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I hear you, but under the principle of perpetual succession, it is understood that you took over the responsibilities of the government that you succeeded. That being the case, and because you are a former parliamentarian, you understand these things very well, why didn't you make an effort to come with that answer? That is my first supplementary. Second and last supplementary, Governor, is what is the status on the ground of these projects to which these pending bills were due?
Okay, Governor, you will pick if there's any other supplementary, so that when you're responding, I want you to respond to all of them, so that we manage the time that we have. If there's any other supplementary.
Agreement with the NMS terminated. Was it by a fraction of time, or it was terminated by mutual consent and agreement? And whether that termination was gazetted as required by law? Thank you.
Chair. Perhaps strengthen the question by Senator Faki, which is the basis for us to be able to engage whichever the officer that the governor has talked about in the Office of the President. What is the basis for that termination? Is there a clear documentation between the county government of Nairobi in that termination that stipulates clearly the agreement of anything that is pending, and with the timelines of when those pending issues, especially in terms of these pending bills, are, that the governor can be able to perhaps table to this committee, so that we use it as a basis for inviting the Office of the President to actually respond to this issue?
Senator Onyonka.
Your Excellency, Governor, I have there's a document I want you to look at. The invitation to a meeting on Standing Committee of Finance and Budget. You've seen that document? Yes. After you came in as the governor, because these are events which took place before you came in as governor, did you have your teams go through, do some form of audit on everything that is in this list? Actually, have you ever seen this list? Have you? All right. If you have, I want the chair to bring the question of if he has seen the list, then I can go to my supplementary question.
You just ask, because this is the response to us.
Yes.
So evidently you must have seen.
So you must have seen the list.
Proceed to the supplementary.
Let me ask the supplementary question. Chair, the document is not paginated, but I will use just 3 examples so that Governor can most probably help us understand where we are. If you go to the contracts and the companies that did the work are listed. You see what if you look there, there's number 271, 283 as you go. I want you to go number 303. Njigu Ventures Limited, Waste Management, 52 million. Njigu Ventures Limited, Waste Management, 55 million. Njigu Ventures Limited, Waste Management, 64 million. Njigu Management, 314, 68 million. If you tally that money, that's about 1 billion shillings where somebody was collecting waste management. What was this all about? Yeah.
You will respond because you know what I wanted is, because of the question that I posed to the owner of the statement, is that if Nairobi City County takes ownership of this liability and awareness, then we are going to interrogate this deeply.
Chair, I wanted you to allow the governor to answer that.
No, he's going to answer.
Then let him answer.
Because
with due respect.
Initially, there is a disclaimer from the governor.
Chair, that is information you have that I don't have. Why don't you let him answer?
I'm coming to that.
Thank you.
Besides, Chair,
let him answer.
Besides, Chair,
Yes.
we've all been in this space
Yeah.
now and for a while. The principle of perpetual succession demands
It's a continuum.
demands that the governor of Nairobi must respond to that question.
Okay. Now, I want to give the opportunity. To Senator Sifuna to ask you a question. I'll ask the last question because I want us to delve deep into this issue a little bit, differently in terms of whether or not the governor takes ownership of this issue. If not, then we are going to not have an opportunity to do what we are required to do. Senator Sifuna, your question?
Chair, the mistake that the governor made was not to give a proper background of all these issues that have led us to this point. And I wish you had spoken to me, because even before the Public Accounts Committee, we made sure that when we were dealing with the NMS pending bills questions, we brought the Comptroller of State House, who is the accounting officer for NMS, to be present there with the governor. For your information, honorable members, at the Public Accounts Committee, we got the Comptroller of State House to acknowledge that these pending bills were a charge on State House. They are the ones to pay these pending bills. So that is why probably, Governor, you did not give that background in clear terms so that the committee understands that there has already been a conversation before the Senate where the Nairobi Metropolitan Service hosted at State House has accepted and acknowledged that these debts are not due from the county government of Nairobi. So it will help this committee a lot, Chairman. If you are discussing NMS pending bills, make sure the governor is here and you make sure that the Comptroller of State House is here. Number two, Governor, you need to table documents before this committee to show the understanding, because it is in writing, between your government and the NMS or the Comptroller of State House, so that you give these members comfort that there is somebody who's responsible for this. So other than that background, Chair, I will wait for, because my question is next, to deal with the questions that I have.
Finally, I think Edwin Sifuna has some very important issue I wanted to say, because the issue of perpetual continuity that has been shared by Senator Boni Khalwale, I wanted to get to that, after the governor acknowledges the fact that the termination of the deed of, transfer of functions was formally done. And that Nairobi City County, in the termination, then there is clear clause on what Nairobi City County is responsible for and what any other entity is responsible for. That's why I was trying to get to that. So the question I want to pose to the governor was, this termination happened under your jurisdiction in terms of immediately you came into office. If that is the case, then did you formally terminate? And what were the terms of termination in terms of what were you responsible for and what was any other entity, for that matter, was supposed to be responsible for, so that then we are able to pick it up from there. Then the questions that Senator Onyonka has asked and Senator Khalwale and the rest of us can be executed. I want to give you the opportunity to first get to, I'm getting a bit of information through maybe the committee that has handled this issue partly. I'm also getting information that there's an agreement that ownership of that liability is with the State House now. But then we don't have any formal documentation to that effect. And lastly, and any entity taking responsibility must be a legal entity that can be held accountable on behalf of these people whose pending liabilities are pending. And I want to start from that legality before we move into the other issues. And then that is why Senator Onyoka was just trying to put some checks, because the point of legality is we have deed of agreement that is gazetted, the initial one. But termination has not been gazetted. We don't have any document available to us that indicates what were the terms of termination, whether the perpetual continuity has been transferred and Nairobi City County is responsible or any other entity. And that's just the point that I needed to get, not to stop the governor answering from questions that we are supposed to be responding to. Okay?
Much obliged, Chair, much obliged.
Now, as Governor, you can respond to those issues. And I want to plead with you to start from the legality part so that then it informs us how we can proceed from there.
Thank you for all the questions from the members. I think it's good, as Senator Nairobi has said, to give a background. The transfer of functions, 4 functions, from the Nairobi City County to the national government was undertaken and done through a deed of transfer. The deed of transfer was time-bound. And so when the time lapsed, it terminated. Following the termination, there was a joint committee between Nairobi County Government, the IGTRC, and the national government to produce several stages of handover. The final handover report has not been concluded by State House because they keep paying these bills. You know, they didn't have that 16 billion at a go, or 15 billion. And so the final hand report really should show the closure of all those matters. NMS died. It died, though people try to revive it, but it's dead. You know, it doesn't exist. The perpetual continuity that Senator Khalwale is asking about, NMS was a national government function. The national government still exists. So the perpetual continuity is by the national government. The accounting officer of NMS was the State House controller. There is still a State House controller, you know. And so the responsibility for those liabilities rests with that office. That still exists. You know, it hasn't disappeared. So the agreement, the termination is in the deed itself. They did one extension before we got into office in 2022, but then that lapsed at the end of that year. And it is true, we have come to PSC before to explain those circumstances, and the State House controller has always been happy and available to come and attend to the committee. So the documentation and termination, I think they can produce different stages of reports. What is here is excerpts from one of the handover reports, you know, where at that time their pending bill was 16 billion. What I'm made to understand informally is that it's now come to around 12 billion. They made a couple of payments, but that has not been formally, given to us by notice. Yet that responsibility is still there. Now there are 2 types of contracts or other payments or outstanding liabilities that they would have. One is suppliers of services, such as the ones you've listed. And of course, I can't go into those, Senator Onyonka, because it's not my document. I've just been able, just to cooperate with the Senate, given you what we have from them, you know. The person who audits this is the Auditor General. And the Auditor General would then say, how is it 1 billion going to this company, what not? It is not us who paid. It is not us who pay them. Yeah. So there are those who did things that would end. If somebody collected garbage in 2022, there's nothing they can show you now. The garbage has gone. They just have documentation. But there were projects that they were undertaking. Now, those projects are in Senator Sifuna's question. A lot of the projects that were not concluded are health projects. So you have a number of hospitals. Unfortunately, some of them had stalled through AMREF. I'm afraid I've not seen the exhaustive response on that because we've asked for it from the Executive Office of the President. What we've been able to do as a county is in certain cases where that service is still completely needed, we've received deeds of novation from the national government. We've retendered and taken up the projects where there's no pending certificate, because you cannot have two contractors on the same project or the same site. An example is Mutwini, the project at Mutwini Hospital. Since there was no outstanding certificate that was ready to be handed back to us to continue from where it had reached, we've since contracted. In fact, we've contracted the same person who was doing it, is the one who won that contract, and we will conclude that project. Chair, I'll be very happy to furnish more information in details because I've seen that it is not in this bundle. If you can indulge us kindly on those ongoing projects that we're speaking about, mostly then health. The other category of projects were CRBC related projects. Those were drainage improvements in informal settlements. There is lighting. There is sewer extensions. All of those are still being discussed between us and the national government because we said they need to be concluded. At the stage at which they are, they haven't helped the community because when you have a hanging sewer connection, it is not concluded. And so they're coming to around 3 billion shillings. I'd want us, again, when you have the accounting officer for NMS, to be able to respond to that in detail because they have not been handed over to us. So I cannot give you an answer without authority of documentation or on a matter that is not within our purview. What we do, since the functions are back to us, is pick it up from where we are. We're still providing water, we're providing roads, and I'm really grateful to the Senate, but they allow me to use this opportunity to thank senators. You have stood for devolution and fighting for the allocation of money to counties that now has come to 400 billion. Please secure that, because I've had ideas that is going to be reviewed downward. Article 219 does not allow. I think you cannot have an amendment to DORA. And even the proposed amendment to CARA does not amend DORA. You can't amend DORA through CARA, I'm very proud. This is a new financial year. In the last financial year, Nairobi County has raised 12.8 billion, the highest in devolution by any county since devolution started. Our revenues have been 12.8 billion shillings. That has never been seen by any county or by Nairobi since the advent of, not even by the NMS. And I keep saying the NMS they had the military, they had the bombs, they had everything, but they didn't get to that amount. In our first year, we surpassed 7 years. Now we've surpassed all collections. Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company, which is a company under us, fully owned by Nairobi County, has also broken the 10 billion barrier, has collected 10.7 billion in terms of collections. The match between billings and collections in history has never been achieved. That has been done courtesy of support from the Senate. And so I want you to know that what you're doing is not in vain. The kind of support that you're giving the county, because now services then are felt, despite what is happening. During the last protest, we still collected 30 million, which is low, because this is a season where we should be doing 85 million a day. But we collected 30 million shillings because of decentralizing and digitizing. No, you don't have to come to City Hall to pay those amounts. So just coming back to this context, is that these answers, both of them, would be best responded to by the person in charge of those projects, and that is the Executive Office of the President. I'm very happy and willing to answer what we are expending, appropriating, and executing as the county government of Nairobi. Chair.
Senator Faki?
What we need to have is the document of handover that you executed between you and NMS upon your assuming office. The initial contract was for 2 years, which expired in, I think, March 2022.
And it was extended.
And then it was extended. For what period? You see, we need to know
until
for
October,
what period.
when was it? It was extended by 6 months.
Oh, 6 months.
Yeah. Then it died. You know, the only thing that still exists is the settling of pending outstanding liabilities by them. But there's no function of Nairobi County being handled by the national government anymore. If anything, we are now supporting the national government through our school feeding program. You know, we have reversed it because we've seen that we need to feed our kids. We're now feeding 200,000 children every day at 5 shillings. But next time, we're going to go to 310,000 children at 5 shillings every single day. You know, so apart from transferring from Nairobi to national, we've actually done a deed where we're using of course we're not teaching, the function of education is national, but the facilities are ours, they belong to us. The schools are county schools, children welfare is a county function, and it's actually one of our most successful programs.
Chair, just one thing.
Sifuna, there is Senator Onyonka ahead of you, and Senator Kalwale. Senator Onyonka.
Thank you, Chair, through you, Excellency Governor. I don't know why I'm a bit, I'm uncomfortable. Chair, and this is the problem I'm having. I don't know what to ask him because he's saying he's in this list just now.
No, I've seen it now. I've said this is what we got in August of 2023.
Let me then ask you the follow-up question. Yeah. I think that will maybe help me. You look at all these figures which are listed here from after you came over, because this is payments between 22 to 23. By that time is when you were sworn in as governor.
Yeah.
Have you looked at the filing and confirmed that documentation was available, that everything was done meticulously according to the law for these people to have been given this work? Because I am literally shocked at the amounts of money available. One company is being given 1.2 billion.
Yeah, that's what the NMS was.
For waste collection. I'm asking myself how that money, what would it have done in Nairobi City County if it was being given, for example, to these youths that are out here in the streets? That's one company. And there are about 14 companies that are getting 800 million, 1.2 billion, 2.6 billion. I've just been looking at these figures. Have you verified anything so that then we know what to do? Because you have talked about the details that are State House, the AIE holder was the controller of State House, and in fact, they're
still paying.
Yeah, they're still paying. Are you sure that? This is why I said I don't know what to ask you.
Yeah. Can I give some?
No,
sorry,
let me note because, that. Governor, I want you to take note because their follow-up, I want you to pick them because then you're able to respond. Senator Kalwale, I want to give you the opportunity to do your follow-up.
The reason, Governor, why I asked you the status of the projects that are the reason for these pending bills is because at State House, the accounting officer has the accounts, and the governor of Nairobi on the ground has the projects. I request you to look at item number 48, 49, and 50 of your document. This company, China Road and Bridge, is asking for 108 million, 248 million, 470 million. You owe it to respond to the issue of value for money. Have you seen these projects?
Are they there?
Are they there? And if they are not there, what are you doing to alert State House that these billions should not be paid to this company?
Okay. Senator Sifuna, finally, before
The governor has submitted some documents. And Governor, I think, again, I will say this, your team always lets you down. Because if you read the documents you've submitted yourself, they are totally different from what you're saying. I want you to go to the end of the Annex D, there's Annex E and Annex F. You have not paginated again, of course, but I don't know if we are there together. At the end of Annex F, are we there?
D. Yes.
At the end of Annex F.
Yes.
Yeah. Governor, are we together?
Yes, I'm there.
At the end of Annex F, there is number 2 there that asks, indicate plans, if any, put in place by the Office of the President to ensure that all contractors are paid. Now, when you talk of plans for repayment of contractors, you are contradicting our agreement at PAC by saying Nairobi City County plans for payment of suppliers owed by the now defunct Nairobi Metropolitan Service, after reviewing the status of work done, involves several key steps to ensure transparency, fairness, and accountability. You are saying your government will pay. Yet the position before PAC,
this is wrong.
that's what I'm trying to bring you to this. You need to tell the committee whether you stand by this position or the position you gave to PAC, that these dates are not due from the Nairobi county government. They are charged to State House. You have even talked about prioritization of payment. All this document, Governor, are we to believe, because it's on your letterhead from the CEC, Finance and Economic Planning Affairs, what is the position? Are we as the people of Nairobi paying this amount, or are we not paying this amount? Chair, I will say just one last thing. This is criminality. It's absolute criminality. Because if you look at, say, item number 297 there, on the list of under Annex, this should be the first one, Annex A, you will see that the same company is charging the Nairobi Metropolitan Services for hire of machines, heavy equipment that is used in collection of garbage, and then charge them again for the service of collection of garbage.
Same time.
You understand?
Even the
so
same date.
Yes, the concern that Senator Khalwale is raising is very valid.
Yeah.
And Governor, you must draw to us a correlation between these pending bills, especially in the area of solid waste management, and the problems we are going through currently as a county. Because there is hue and cry from all over the place that the county government is not collecting garbage. The other day we were very embarrassed on Citizen TV from the story from Kangemi. I'm sure you saw the story. So connect it for the committee. What are the challenges you are facing just for waste collection alone because of this problem of unpaid pending bills to the NMS?
Can you have your mic off?
Oh, sorry.
You know, I was trying to get a very systematic approach because the issues of concern here is not an issue that is going to put to rest. Unfortunately, this committee is not privy to your engagement with PAC. However, we've never started anything without bringing it to its logical conclusion. The issue that is here is that we have a pending bill of 16 billion shilling. That is what is in the information with us. As to other side information you have of it has been brought down to 12 billion is a different story altogether.
As I said, it's informal.
Yes. Now, the issues of concern is because we haven't even interrogated the document you've brought. And we are supposed to interrogate these documents thoroughly. What we want to fix is the responsibility. Who is responsible for liabilities incurred under Nairobi Metropolitan Services? Number one. Number two, and I want you to come in very systematically because then it informs our formal engagement. Number two, the question is, at the point of termination, whether it was natural or otherwise, did you have documented termination that transfers back the services back to you as Nairobi City County? And if that is there, we need the document.
Okay.
Number three,
Yeah.
you transferred functions to an entity called Nairobi Metropolitan Service, okay? But it is your function, responsibility lies with you again to say, for example, you know, I'm very happy to hear that State House has accepted to foot that bill. But the onus is upon you to verify that these projects for which payments are going to be done actually exist on the ground. It's not enough for you to say, Governor, we have 16 billion, but it was under NMS, and now I've taken it back, and the responsibility is State House to pay. If State House is paying ghost projects in the name of Nairobi City County, how does that miss your responsibility as a governor?
Chair, they're not paying in the name of Nairobi City County. They're paying in the name of NMS, which is a national government entity.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I mean, now that you've engaged me on that.
Yeah.
is Nairobi Metropolitan Services a legal entity in existence? Can it sue and be sued? Is it established? Is it anchored in law? And you are an expert in this issue. The reason why I am trying to say is you transferred functions. And when I say you,
Nairobi County.
Nairobi City County to an entity. And I have not gone into the question of whether or not Nairobi Metropolitan Services is a legal entity to start with. What we have here is a situation where we need to protect. If these monies were legally incurred and the projects are in existence, we want to protect the contractors to get their money.
Okay.
If the projects are non-existent, we want to protect the government not to pay money that has not been earned, in order to make sure that this happens. So the point that we want to get here is, it is not enough, for you to say, for example, at the Nairobi City Governor, that, this issue is Nairobi Metropolitan Service. But Nairobi City County transferred functions for which these liabilities have been incurred. Those functions have been transferred back to you. And there is a list here in front of us of pending liabilities in lieu of projects. Are these projects in existence? Have you been able to verify that they do exist? You understand?
Yes, sir.
And then, so that we're able to guide. And the reason why we have not even delved into what you have presented, whether they're okay or not, we want to fix responsibility somewhere. And this responsibility cannot be easily fixed only on the State House. Because immediately you came in, because of the going concern concept, the perpetual continuity that was discussed by the senator, is that you will be deemed to have taken responsibility for the project, whether complete or incomplete, because they are yours now. Yes. Okay? So get to this so that we engage. And if you don't have sufficient information before us, then we will give you a little bit of time, because it is not something that can be, really shelved away. We have to process it to its logical conclusion to a point where then we have fixed the responsibility with someone, number one. Number two, then verification of these liabilities has taken place, collaborated by an independent entity, whether that independent entity is going to be commissioned through resolution of this committee or requesting the Auditor General to be able to verify if these projects actually do exist or not. And then maybe direct, in other words. Please, and I'm avoiding where this member should go into what you have submitted, because a lot of other issues will come out, including one that was just picked by Senator Sifuna, which says you are responsible as Nairobi City County to pay these liabilities and you're making plans. And your initial statement contradicted with your presented document.
Chair, allow me to say that response actually asked that the county secretary expunge this, because it is not what we're doing. It was agreed at IBEC. It was agreed at the summit, which is the highest decision-making organ of, according to the law, where there's a president and governors, that all outstanding NMS liabilities are to be sorted out by the national government. So this allow me to expunge these two parts. What is there above the annexes is documentation by them, by the people who you should ask these details. What we have done as a county, number one, we were the first to ask for the audit by the Auditor General and the verification. I gave you the example of two projects. I said one is this solid waste management, and I'll get to that comprehensively. But number two is this hanging projects, this CRBC that you're talking about, the China Road and Bridge Corporation, which we are pushing for the government to conclude, the national government. They need to conclude them. We have seen where the roads were done, halfway, the sewer extensions, we have seen. We have seen more than 360 kilometers of cables for power, We've seen more than 11,000 streetlights that are in their stores, But until government concludes that, and that is what is ongoing, we had a session between ourselves and the national government, chaired by the president and I, and his ministers and my CCs, to agree on the conclusion of these hanging projects and further support to Nairobi County, as the Constitution envisages. And I don't want to explain for them, because I'm not the one who's paid these people these amounts or put them. But the clarity I can give you, hire of machinery or heavy equipment is different from solid waste collection. Hire of equipment and machinery is what happens at the dump site. You know, those, what do you call those machines? The dozers and the compressors that actually move the garbage from one cell to another. The solid waste collection and transportation is the trucks that are in different sub-counties, you know. So that is different. You can have it's a different tender. You can have a tender for machinery that is purely at Dandora. Then you can have the one for collection, which is what we are phasing out, you know, and I'll get into that. But hire of heavy equipment, because if you hire it, like what you've pointed out, a center line, and this again, I'm issuing the disclaimer, this is their documentation, is their machinery at Dandora. But center line also has been allocated a sub-county from which to collect garbage. Chair, if you allow me, the termination, the documentation that you saw us signing between ourselves and the then Attorney General, Kihara, and the then Solicitor General, together with the former NMS Director, can be availed to you. It was acknowledging that the entity no longer exists. Its perpetual successor is the Office of the President. That is the perpetual successor of that national government entity. That is why they are the ones who are paying suppliers, not Nairobi County Government. So allow me to expand those two sections. Yeah, and this is information from that first report of handover. Say these are the bills that we have at the national government. There is no one supplier of NMS paid at Nairobi County here at City Hall. No. Number two, we ourselves had questions because I was the senator of Nairobi at that time. Nairobi County Government gave to NMS 27 billion shillings. On top of the 27 billion shillings, and I've said this before, there were presidential projects, you know, like Uhuru Park, you know, there's some which were what they call presidential flagship projects. In addition to that, because what you give them cannot be a pending bill, because we were still having, you know, this cash, you have cash to pay it. On top of that, they then incurred 16 billion. So if in 2 years, a county whose shareable revenue at that time was, I got it at 15 billion when I became senator, we pushed it to 19 and now it's at 20. Expending more than 20 billion, more than 40 billion, 27 plus 16, on 4 functions, yet there are 14 county functions, is something that we asked the Auditor General to specifically look into an audit, you know. There's a lot that was done in terms of Cabro in the CBD. We're spending much less. If you go right now to River Road, Tomboya, the whole of, you know, Racecourse Road, Accra Road, which is now Kenneth Matiba Road, we're doing that work. Unfortunately, now during Mandamano, they found the Cabros and they used them for the wrong reason. But we are doing that at a lower rate. If you look outside Parliament before you open this building, we did all this work here. Yeah, this square you have over here, at a much less cost than what they were expending. And on top of which we're raising much more revenue, you know. So that audit, the verification that you're asking about, the competent entity to verify is the Office of the Auditor General. And they're on that. So I would ask that when you invite the NMS, represented by the Executive Office of the President, also ask the Auditor General to present you and furnish you with those reports, because we have asked for them. There must be value for Nairobians' money. There must be value, you know, for their money. Many of the buildings they built, calling them hospitals, are not equipped. We're the ones who have come in and bought equipment. If you go to Moja 2 today, we have Kenya's first public eye hospital. There's no other public hospital in this country that we converted because it was just a building.
Chair.
Okay, let me give Senator Eddie. I think I'm coming back to you because you know, every response you are giving is raising more questions.
No, that's good. That's why I'm here.
Chair.
I'm happy to be here.
Let me give Senator Eddie.
Anything that the Senator of Nairobi has said, and I think that it is important to stress that where you're doing good work, that is fine. But I think that we are trivializing the weight of this question. And Chair, just on a point of order, I wished that we had decided with the oath to the governor.
Why?
Because of what is presented here, because we are getting a lot of stories that I think that would have been summarized by simple written responses to what the senator asked on this document. Because when you talk about pending bills, Chair, it's not about the act of payment that is important. It's about how those pending bills affect other aspects of Nairobi County, including whether the services were given or even if the continuing existence of those pending bills are affecting any services that are continuing in Nairobi County. That's how I get it. So that I was expecting the governor of Nairobi to indicate to us that in this transfer deed, when we were doing this transfer of these services back to the county, these were my stipulated responsibilities with regards to these pending bills on what I would follow up as the Chief Executive Officer of Nairobi under Article 179 of the Constitution, and this is what remains for the control of budget, which is what is simplifying to be an action of payment. But more than action of payment is what the Honorable Senator of Kakamega is saying. Have you been able to interrogate whether those services are being given to Nairobi? Have you been able to interrogate whether when those pending bills are not paid, how will they impact the continuity of those services in Nairobi? So I think that for the purposes of moving forward, Chair, let us not interact on narrative. Let us interact on some written document that can be a basis for reference for us. And the first one for me would be, can we be able to have a glance at this transfer deed, where it was articulated that the controller of budget, or the controller at the office of the president would be able to do this payment. But me, as the CEO of this county, this will be my responsibility with regards to this pending projects and pending payments. Because otherwise, we will be having a back and forth narrative for which we don't have basis for even following up with the office of the president, the executive office of the president.
Okay. Senator Faki.
Chair, maybe to add to look at the value for money in these projects. Because if you consider a pending bill since on a project like the sewer projects or the road projects from 2022 up to now, and we are still waiting because we don't know when the government will get money to pay the contractor so that he can now hand over or he can proceed to conclude the project. So the issue of value for money is very important because those services are not currently being provided, and yet
that's what we asked the Order General. That's what we asked.
Senator Wanyonka.
Chair, I don't know whether I'm the one who's confused or something is totally wrong. What are we here interrogating?
Generalism.
Chair, what we are interrogating is that tons and tons of money has been paid for a service. I am trying to find out whether the current CEO of Nairobi County is aware whether this payment were made legally and according to the PFM Act. And I've been trying to listen to what the governor is saying. And what he's saying is he actually doesn't know what you people call him here for. So can we get the status controller, get the governor, get the internal audit department of the county government of Nairobi, and let's sit and ask them how much they've paid, what money whether these people who are being paid. I would like the governor to tell me, the people that he found when he came in as governor, did he find that they were satisfied that these bills are either been paid, not paid, or they were actually legitimate bills? Because, Chair, some of these payments have scared me. I swear in the name of God, I've never seen money like this.
Okay, Senator.
Chair is concerned whether the governor is concerned about these pending bills, more so on the hire of heavy machines. Are these machines which you cannot buy yourselves as a county and be able to give the services to this Nairobi, because hiring of these machines are costing billions, and these are the billions which you can buy your own machines and give these services and stop incurring these big bills. Thank you, Chair.
Senator Kalwale.
Watching your body language, you're about to make a critical decision. Before you make, With due respect, Governor. With due respect, Governor, I have been the chairman of public account longest in the history of the Republic of Kenya. 5 years in the National Assembly, 3 years in the Senate. I know how to look at these documents. With due respect, you are ill-prepared to appear before this committee this morning. I don't want to say your team is incompetent. Why? That you are asking to expunge a section of your own response on this floor tells me that you are seeing this document for the first time in this meeting. Can I, sir? Can I, sir?
I'll give you the chance.
Can I, sir?
Just take note. When you're given the opportunity, it's
Governor, if that is the case, then either your team is incompetent or you have no respect for public funds. You cannot just come before us and tell us, allow me to expunge the following. Where were you? Why didn't you read? Why didn't you hold a pre-meeting with your able officers? And all these people, Governor, all these people are professionals. And these professionals, the Cs who wrote this, cannot have lost the fact that there is a deed of transfer that provided that the guy in State House is the one to pay. Or if you thought we would not notice. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Senator Tabitha.
Listening, and I want to say that if, Governor, you would have taken the first opportunity to actually do the remarks in terms of the background history as far as the role of NMS is concerned, maybe we would not be having the kind of question that is actually popping up. Case example, the issue of the transportation in terms of the solid waste and the hired machine, because you're trying to explain it, but if it had even come earlier in terms of what brings the difference for members even to understand that there are machines at that it's called Dandora dump site that normally push that waste, and there's the waste from the constituency. If you had begun actually with more remarks and explanation of this particular history, but here we are. What is coming out, which I wanted a clarity, is how much was given to the national government through NMS from Nairobi County. What does the report say? I've heard you mention a figure of 27 billion, then which raises the question of then how much was transferred? Because for them to be able to procure these jobs, then they had a budget, then there was an agreement indicating that this is the money we are going to spend for this particular project that NMS has taken up, and these are the funds that are going to be transferred from Nairobi County to NMS, so that you can be able to now remove yourself from this issue of the pending bill. The other just major concern is the issue of the projects that are existing. At what level are they? Because the issue that you have, and I know Chair will be ruling, is to give you more time to be able to ensure you have enough annexes for this committee moving forward. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Respond, but I want you to understand that in this Committee of Finance, we've never started anything that we've not, brought to logical conclusion. Number one. Number two, the issues that have come before us, and it is an issue that we really want to systematically process. And having been there as a governor for 10 years, I know you felt a bit agitated when Kharwale said maybe these documents, you've just seen it for the first time. But I want to tell you, in every audit or appearance before the Committee of Parliament, I've always sat with my team and thoroughly interrogated, even including the evidence that they have shared as technical team. And I've acted as devil's advocate to be able to ask the right questions if they're incomplete and some documents are missing or it doesn't make sense. So what Senator Khalwal was trying to say is important because I haven't, if you realize the whole of this engagement, I haven't delved into what you have submitted to us. I've not made any reference to any page. Reason being, I want to first try and get the exhaustive responsibility where it lies, and then you try to exonerate yourself from the responsibility of what has happened under Nairobi Metropolitan Service, and that we've said maybe in terms of payment, but in terms of value for money and whether or not this project actually exists, you have full responsibility as the current governor, because you cannot just say it happened somewhere else and it's done. Now, I want to give a bit of guidance, but before I do that, I want to give you the opportunity to say something. And thereafter, because we cannot, of course, progress on this issue because there's a lot of missing issues that I want furnished to the committee before we can engage.
Okay.
But let me just give you the opportunity to say something before I make that ruling.
Chair, and that is why I said when we went through this, I'd want Senator Kalole to listen, Chair, kindly.
Yes.
And that's why I said, when we went through this, I asked my county secretary to expunge and to withdraw. Not today, when we went through this. Because this is not the... In fact, I told them, why are you explaining on behalf of another entity? Because you cannot verify that Clinton production or Zafi, whatnot, that was being done by the national government. So that is what I meant to say. And which is why today, if you look, I have given my responses not by reading any document, but by explaining myself. So this response by the county is what I'm saying I asked them to withdraw. The response on these issues is what I'm giving verbally. And a written response by a county government is to be signed by the governor. That is the procedure, isn't it? So this was just to give you information of what that, the status. But I will give you the response myself. I asked them yesterday when we went through it and the day before that you cannot send this. It's like asking me to give you the ownership of a company. I'm not the entity to do that. It's a business registration services. So I'll allow us to leave that at that kindly, Chairman. The long and short answer is this.
Point of order, Chair. Governor, I cannot allow you to get there. You know for a fact I cannot allow that to go.
No, I will give...
Governor, do you understand the import of putting a letterhead on a document? Do you know what it means for you to have this emblem on top of a document? It means it is a document, Chair, from the Nairobi City Council.
What I'm saying is that I asked the county secretary to, and he can confirm. I asked them to withdraw this response.
So you should I think, Chair, you should not accept. Oh, just 1 minute, Chair.
But we can.
You should not accept a county executive to come and say, I was just sharing something. Governor, that's unacceptable.
No.
And you know it.
No, you don't understand. You don't understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
Chair.
That for very good reason, because I've mentioned already, every time we've given you an opportunity, it raises more questions and more queries.
Just allow me to finish before you give directions.
One minute, Madam Vice Chair, let me just bring this, because the response you've shared with us, Honorable Senators, is response that is marked Office of the Governor and the County Secretary. And the response is signed by the County Secretary, who is an accounting officer on behalf of the Office of the Governor. And the Governor is CC'd. Okay? Now, the reason why I'm stopping you is that in all sincerity, Governor Sakaja, you have not taken this statement seriously. And I have to put it as candidly as possible. I sit in a very unfortunate position with wealth of experience in devolution and responses to this issue. You've been there as a senator with the same experience and now as a governor. So don't get defensive. The issues here is you've not taken this very seriously. Now, I'm sending you back, and within the next 14 days, furnish this committee first. Refer back to the letter that was written to you and what the letter asks in relation to this question. And further, furnish this committee with resolution of IBEC for the payment of pending bills incurred by NMS, which clearly stated and fixed responsibility somewhere. get the mutual consent agreement for termination of the deed of transfer, so that we're able to fix responsibility somewhere. So that in that, we want to know the issue is not just the responsibilities with control of state of controller, but more, what have you agreed to be your responsibility? What has state of controller agreed to be the responsibility of the executive on behalf of the executive? And that needs to be clear. And your raw handover report, that is what we need in terms of what you don't have to make it look nice or anything. What were you handed over by anybody on behalf of that, so that we get that.
Yeah, that is available.
Yes, so that thereafter, then please, because we get the verbal responses to enrich the written responses that you provide to the committee. Now, I want you to give the committee a written response in relation to what you've been asked, in consultation with your technical teams, so that then you can enrich it. If there are follow-up questions that come from the committee members, you're able to say, based on that, you can enrich if it is not covered. And you have 14 days to be able to respond to this, and that goes for the other two questions.
No, Chair. I strongly object to that line, because the second question is more important than the first question. The first question is dealing with historical issues. Now, the current situation is something that I am more interested in, because even the governor, for instance, I had asked on the current status of waste disposal in Nairobi. He needs to speak to this.
1 minute, Senator Edwin, look at your time.
I have all the time. This is my job.
It's not all the time. This
is the only job I'm elected to do.
We are supposed to be in the chamber at 2:30, and the time has run out. The reason why I'm saying, if we started issues that is not concluded.
On the current status, I think you should give the governor.
No, I can give. I'll give the governor a response. But the issue that I've said is, there are two statements. You have a statement on pending bills in Nairobi County. I don't want to open that.
That's what I'm saying. That's historical. We can leave that.
One minute.
Can I give you an example, Chair?
1 minute, Edwin, and so that at least we can manage this systematically. We have called the governor here on 3 issues. What I've ruled on is on the statement of Senator Khalwale, what needs to be done. Number 2, I've ruled on 2 issues. Your statement and the issue of locker, because we don't have the time to, execute them now. That is my ruling. Now, if there is any follow-up question that was asked, and you want the governor in conclusion to be able to respond, that's okay. But that ruling stands for your statement, and the statement on Flocker, and also the statement of Khalwale in terms of Nairobi Metropolitan Service.
That's fine, Chair.
So when you come back in 2 weeks, we will also invite the controller, or State House controller, the Auditor General, and we will have the owners of the other statements also present, so that then we'll be able to execute these issues properly. Now, what is it that the governor has not responded to?
Yeah,
that you want to respond
Governor, this is an opportunity, because I had asked what the relationship is between this current problem, especially when it comes to waste disposal. And you had said you would respond and tell the committee what you have done as a county government, because the stories that we hear out there is that the reason we have garbage collection problems in Umoja 2, Inako, in places like Kangemi, is because these contractors, these ones, are sabotaging you, or they are on strike. So this is the I'm telling you. Okay.
So that is very true.
It's a big issue. That's why, Chairman, you come from Mandera. I am from Nairobi. Allow the governor to tell us, because people ask me these questions. No, I know where he lives. There's no problem of garbage there. I know where he lives. So, Chair, allow the governor, please, just for the sake of
Governor, is the ruling I gave you very clear, so that at least we move from that part. Then you can respond on the issue of the follow-up question in your closing remarks.
Chair, the ruling on issues is clear in terms of the deed of transfer. In fact, our response on the whole issue would have been, all these bills are to be sorted at State House. We can talk about value for money, what is going on, etc. But just for the record, all pending bills of NMS are sorted at the Executive Office of the President and not the Nairobi County government.
No, kindly do not explain, because I've ruled already.
So
Now, in your closing remarks,
we shall give the documentation
and
that you've asked for.
If you want this in writing,
that would be good.
The technical team will write to you in what we need from you in all the statements. But in your closing remarks, can you respond to that follow-up question?
Maybe I can. And if you want a more comprehensive response on that, I can also issue it. When you look at these bills, this is what has been happening in the city of Nairobi. That solid waste management has been about money. It has been about business. When you got in, we resorted to change that model because this is not sustainable. The amount of money being paid out to these contractors, whether it is hire of machinery, whether it is collection from certain areas, is not sustainable. In fact, what we've done, Chair, is number one, we started in building our own internal capacity. We've acquired machinery. We're increasing our fleet. I have 24 brand new refuse compactors that are coming out in the next few days. We got, how many tippers were there? 24 new tippers. And right now we're in discussions to actually get a fleet of 200. Because we must do it as a county. The amount of money we pay is enough for us to have it. What we want to do, secondly, we increased our human capacity. We had 3,500 young people in what we call the Green Army. If you go around the city, you will see them. You will see them collecting, clearing the drainages during the, you saw them doing that. They're employees of Nairobi County government. Because you must deal with the human resource and the equipment and the fuel to keep it going. The next stage we're going to, Chair, is we're setting up a standalone agency of waste management. Just like Johannesburg has what they call Pick It Up. It's a company that does waste management. Lagos has the Lauma, Lagos Waste Management Authority. We want to set up a Nairobi Waste Management Authority that then looks at the entirety of waste management, circular economy, waste to energy. We have signed with the China National Electric and Engineering Company a project to produce 45 megawatts of energy from our garbage. This has been discussed for decades. It has never been able to be implemented. We're the ones who've gotten to that level. But that authority, just like we have Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company, which was a department before of the city, will now have, a director general and the requisite professionals who handle all aspects of solid waste management, who make sure that every household, like it was when we grew up in the city, we used to have a small fee, and there was this Camero that would come and collect garbage on Thursdays and on Tuesdays, working with these CBOs, because a lot of the problems you talk about is because of these CBOs illegally dumped. And so the scheduling of when the trucks come to collect that garbage, the logistics needs an entity that can manage that. Material recovery facilities, which you want to do, sorting out of different types of garbage. So those with calorific value are used for, for energy. Those that are organic can be converted into fertilizer. So we have an entire plan around that. But the reason why the city for the last 2 years had been struggling with this is because of these entrepreneurs. It's all about billions.
No, it's important, Chair. I just had him raise a question.
Yes.
And I thought it's important. I'm just mentioning. I want you to be honest. The reason why the system is not functional is because of the corruption. It's because of, not you.
Chair.
Governor, listen to me first.
Yeah.
Please listen to me.
But
because there's a lot
when you say you want me to be honest, it means I was not honest.
Yes.
No, I'm honest.
You are scattering around the issue. The fact is that you are not getting the requisite government approvals. You are not getting teams to run. You are not getting the government to give you. Bear me. Please don't answer for me. My governor, thank you. I'm concluding. You are not getting the government to give you the support because there are too many people who have a vested interest on how the garbage is going to be collected in Nairobi. And that is the challenge you've got. And I think we need to start talking about these things. My governor.
Chair, if you would allow, I pick it up from where Senator Sifuna had actually mentioned. The question was the issue where we are in terms of the pending bills, the NMS and everything. The current situation has pending bills as far as garbage collection is concerned. contractors and suppliers are not being paid. We are still, the county is still in the same mess. Apart from pending bill, we still have waste within the city. That is what we are asking as far as the current situation is concerned, for the suppliers being paid. They have used their money to where they are, and they need to get paid to avoid the issue of the pending bills, and also to make the city clean. As you've all, their slogan goes, let's make Nairobi work.
You should give full disclosure to the committee.
No.
We want to hear this.
No,
Mr. Chairman,
you cannot do that.
The chairman, you will
No,
not
Chairman, you cannot
the governor of Nairobi.
Let the truth come out. We in the Senate are in the week of truth. Hii week in
The governor of Nairobi
let him say. Because, Honorable Chair, just 1 minute, Honorable Khalwan. Can I just say one thing, Chair? No, one thing. Just 1 minute. 1 minute, Onyonka.
Edwin Sefula.
1 minute, Onyonka. I will speak
I
for the
only
committee.
want an orderly way of executing.
That's why I've asked my colleagues to allow me to ask.
Speaking.
Can I have a copy of the standing orders, please, Honorable
no,
Clerk?
so-
The standing orders require that if you are going to have pecuniary interest in a matter, as a member of a committee or the Senate, you must disclose that pecuniary interest. If the governor has made an allegation against a member of your committee of being conflicted in a matter, you as chairman must rule on that position. You cannot wish it away. And in this week of truth in the Senate, we will not allow you, chairman, to get away with this. We will not allow it.
Now, Senator Edwin, what I'm trying to rule on is order in terms of engagement. Now, you cannot only speak and expect the governor to have heard for him to respond to what you are trying to say. Okay? What I need is, please request to be given an opportunity with the mic to say something so that the other person can say. But if all of you speak at the same time, so what are we executing? Yes, exactly. So what I was trying to guide, so you don't say the chairman rule on this. The issue just came up and all of you are talking. We are not in a marketplace. You know, we just want to make sure we have a very orderly way of executing.
Yeah, almost all of us are not talking.
Listen, what comes from you must be very clear so that it is understood clearly, so that everybody speaks. Who has anything else to add on the issue that has been discussed? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the statement made by the governor of Nairobi is profound. One of the supplementaries I was going to raise after him responding on the senator for Nairobi was, could he tell us the names of companies that are currently carrying out the important business of collecting waste? Why, Mr. Speaker? Because of what exactly he has said. Conflict of interest. We have members of parliament who are doing business with the county of Nairobi. They want to make the governor of Nairobi to look bad. And even before we ask them to disclose their pecuniary interest, they are back home flashing the money, Mr. Chairman. And when we raise in our constitutional responsibility oversight questions, they have the audacity to offer us an opportunity to come and build our churches in the Luhya nation. And therefore, if your vice chair is one such a member of parliament, let the governor set the record clear. We cannot run this country if we are going to be afraid here today and then allow the children to come to kill us in parliament the way they did the other week. It is a serious matter, Mr. Chairman. Please let the governor be heard.
Before interjections came. Now, Onyonka.
Saying something.
Very good. Okay.
Because I'm one of the people who's accused of doing business with the county of Nairobi when I actually do not. So it is important. If the governor has not mentioned any name, but it's a good opportunity because I've heard people saying I'm also a garbage collector. That I have pending bills in Nairobi that they are being paid through the back door. I want this thing to be cleared. If there are members of this committee or members of the Senate or National Assembly doing business with the county government of Nairobi, this is the opportunity. Because this week is very different from every other week, Chairman, and we must bring this matter to a close.
Now, Honorable Member respond to the issues as requested by the members. In the interest of managing time, this will be the last interjection. I will allow him to respond and we are closing at that. Are we in agreement?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Mheshimiwa Governor, you've heard them clear, and it's loud and clear.
Yes.
And the last 2 days, the Senate has been doing what is called a moment of self-reflection.
That is good.
You have an opportunity to say everything and anything that you want to say because you've been given an open check to make a statement. Over to you.
Chair was first of all in addressing the issue of management of.
Sorry, just before you conclude, because you gave a very good plan.
Yeah.
My interest on behalf of Nairobi residents is, in the meantime, in the short time,
Yeah.
what are you doing to make sure that the city is kept clean? Include that, because I just went to Feather Dandora route and I was very embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I was attending a burial in that area. So in the short term, despite the challenges, what are you doing? Over to you.
I've explained what the challenge had been in the issue of solid waste management, and Senator Onyonka, has described it how he sees it. It's a lot of this interest, and I've said that the county needs to be able to have the full capacity to collect and process solid waste, and that is why we are investing in equipment. We are moving into that county agency, Nairobi, and you'll help me find even a good name for it, but Nairobi Waste Management Authority. If you look during your time, just Google the Joburg or Lagos and see how it is structured. It is really, Nairobi has gone into that place because collection of close to 3,000 tons of garbage a day is in itself an enterprise, And so that is the direction we're moving towards. In the meantime, it is really about, number one, resources. For number one, servicing our own fleet, So you need to service your fleet in terms of fuel, in terms of, spare parts, etc. And number two, you need to make sure that those who you're still contracted for certain areas are to be paid. Now, without proper or regular exchequer disbursements to counties, what we collect as our own source revenue is then fully dedicated to paying salaries, because our salary is around 1.4 billion. And so if you're in a situation like we are today, where before last week counties had not gotten exchequer for 3 months, then the operations and maintenance then suffers. It suffers. And so that timely expenditure, releasing of exchequer then sorts out, because the equipment is there, but you need to be able to pay for fuel, you need to be able to pay the contractors. And the reason why I interjected at that point was Senator Tabitha was then almost shouting about current contractors without disclosing the facts that they are. Now, I am not the registrar of businesses, so I don't know beneficial ownership. But I will tell you, senators and MPs actually push for certain businesses to be paid. That is true. Senators and MPs push for businesses to be paid, contractors to be paid, lawyers to be paid. I will not mention names because that is not why I'm here. But there always is that pressure. This week I've been telling people, because they're panicking at the close of the financial year, that the 4.3 billion shillings you're spending imeja. I even feel pity for my C Finance and CFO, because everyone is on their phones, because everyone wants their company paid, And so when Senator, you're asking that, I wanted you, because I know the standing orders, you need to declare whether you have interest in any company that is doing that, instead of pontificating here about whether that problem is a problem that is facing the city today. That would be fair. It would be fair for you to be able to declare it. So I have not gone to the registrar to know if that company belongs to you, but you have been asking for payments for certain companies. You have introduced me to people close to you who are owners of those companies. Just be open and tell members. Yeah. I don't know if you have a pending bill in this list. In fact, I would like to see whether your company is one of them here. I would go through it and see whether it is one of them. But in Nairobi County government, you know what your company does. Senator Sifuna has been accused of owning a garbage. Is it a solid waste company? I don't know of any. And he has never asked me for a payment of a solid waste. But if you had, that. No, done. So I'm just saying, instead of using this opportunity to try and paint the county as if it is not working, Senator, be fair. Appreciate you're a leader in Nairobi as well. Appreciate the challenge. Just how the substantive senator said, yes, there's this problem we've seen in certain areas. Why is it not sorted? And I'm telling you, look, if we don't have exchequer releases, because we have to pay contractors, most of it goes to pay salaries. The vehicles need to be fueled. Those contractors need to be paid. But we're moving into that, not just circular economy, because most of 60% of our trash in Nairobi is organic. A lot of it can actually be dealt with at the household level. The circular economy, the material recovery facilities, and so I would love to have another opportunity to come explain to the people of Kenya and Nairobi how this city is going to be clean and going back to that cleanness. We're the only country who has hired 3,000 people, 500 of our young people. Many of them, in fact, we thought that many of them would quit after the first few months because, when you employ, people bring, their friends or whatnot, but they have stuck to it. They do an amazing job. But then you'll find that they have removed the trash, it stays by the road, and it stays there for a long time, because then the trucks don't have fuel. And they don't have fuel because the collections that we're making, and I'm very proud, yes, we've collected 12.8 billion, never done by a county before. This year, we're actually going to hit the 20 billion. We're doing regularization of buildings. We're going to do sectional properties. We're going to get to 20 billion shillings. In fact, we'll... Too many things, that's why you're a finance committee. Look at the financial statements of the county, And so that's the direction.
You have a minute to conclude.
And that's the direction we're going. Chair, my response on, because you've addressed those two issues, very quickly on the third one, the reason why FLOCA has not been effected in Nairobi was because of the lack of climate change legislation in the county.
On that one, I've given you the chance to respond in 2 weeks.
Okay, that's all right.
So I was only saying in your closing remarks, you have a minute.
Okay.
Because I've controlled the members not to ask follow-up questions. And I'm happy whatever that you were asking has been responded to.
Chair.
And Senator Sifuna, he just clarified that he's not the registrar. So he has not managed to check whether you have some interest or not.
but Chair, you would know interest based on the line.
Anyway, that was on a lighter note.
Chair, in conclusion,
it must have been really lynched for him to come up and try and put that issue across.
I've never even heard that allegation. But Chair, in conclusion, the county government of Nairobi is as interested, and I'm happy you said that you always get to the logical conclusion of matters. We're interested in the logical conclusion of these NMS issues, because Chair, money was used for projects that are not concluded. The people of Nairobi can't benefit from it. The county can't take over those projects until they have concluded. So I hope that in the next meeting we can also have them so that we do it.
Okay.
Chair, can I assume that we're meeting in 2 weeks or?
2 weeks. Not assuming. It has been directed, and you'll have a written communication on the date in 2 weeks' time.
I've put in my calendar 18th of July.
In 2 weeks' time, you'll have a letter that will follow up before end of day tomorrow. To that effect.
Actually, Chair, I would ask that we consult on the date. Kindly.
That's not a problem.
Because I've just seen that is a week. I told my senator I'm in a Bloomberg Harvard class from the 15th.
Now,
in New York.
that is not a problem.
We can schedule.
More or less within 2 weeks, plus or minus a few days. That is fine. Mheshimiwa Governor, karibu with your team, and I'm happy we've engaged. This is going to help you in terms of whatever engagement we are doing as Senate in order to make sure you have a systematic way of doing what you are doing. City County is able to realize its potential. When you are invited, nawe pia jikakamue kufika wakati unatea. Otherwise, I just want to say karibuni sana, and you are free to leave as we conclude the meeting. Karibuni.